In 1941, fresh out of East Texas, Bob Fults was 21 years old, a newly trained pilot with an eye on military service in aviation. Elsewhere that year, the Douglas Aircraft Factory was busy putting together the parts that would become the Southern Cross, building this DC-3 on order from a major airline. Now, Bob was eager to fly and to serve, and he made application to the United States Navy as a pilot. Bureaucracy being what it is, they said, "We'll call you." With the world getting more dangerous, Bob didn't want to wait, so he applied to the Royal Canadian Air Force, and they said yes. And wouldn't you know, before this plane was delivered to that airline, and before Bob set out for Canada, the Japanese came to Pearl Harbor, and everything changed. The Navy looked at their list of applications and told Bob, "Come aboard." He was Ensign Robert C. Fults. And the Army looked at this airplane and said, "We need it." She did 2 years of wartime service in Army Green. Bob spent several years in the Navy as a flight instructor, transport pilot. He believes he's been on every single island in the South Pacific, carried home a lot of wounded soldiers from that theater. He flew several aircraft types and says today the DC-3 is, in his view, the best airplane ever made. In 1944, the Navy ordered Bob to Meacham Field in Fort Worth to attend a civilian class, airline captain school. He graduated in June of that year. A couple of years later, Lieutenant Commander Robert C. Fults separated from the Navy, and with an offer of employment from an airline on the table, Bob chose a different path: law school and a law practice to come. His last flight was that airline's check ride for him in 1946. And after this airline captain's school in 1944, even though he spent pretty much all his life right down the road in Dallas, he never set foot on Meacham Field again. Until today. The Southern Cross has been the official ride for everyone from boxes of sea rations to airline passengers to skydiving clubs to foreign heads of state. Now she's in the very good hands of Jim Terry, who along with his friend Scott Perdue and others are also operating the B-25 Mitchell bomber called Pacific Prowler. You'll find them at the Vintage Aircraft Museum at, you guessed it, Meacham Field in Fort Worth, Texas, where today, June 12th of 2010, the DC-3 model G202A called the Southern Cross finally crosses paths with Lieutenant Commander Bob Fults. First, a bit of ground school with co-pilot Scott Perdue.
I'll run the checklist. I'll have it right here, and we'll talk about every item. I will keep it on the runway until we hit 84. So we will be well above VMC.
You use any flaps at all?
No flaps.
Well, that's good. I never did either.
Yeah.
When do you usually get the gear down?
Usually we do that about midfield on the pattern when we're on downwind.
Downwind. Yeah. Okay. For base.
Yes, for base. We do a gear down, flaps a quarter, and then the before landing checklist.
How did you do when you got the gear down? Did you say down, neutral, land, pressure's up, green light?
Bob still remembers all the right questions to ask, and after a few more questions and answers, time for a stroll out through the museum, past the old Pacific Prowler, and on to a rendezvous with the Southern Cross. Bob married Ginny in 1951, a few years after he finished his naval career and turned down a career in the airlines. So did he ever take her up?
Never flew with him. Today's the first day. Looking forward to it.
When Bob climbed aboard, Jim and Scott honored him by asking for his signature on the fuselage of the Southern Cross. And then it was back to work for Lieutenant Commander Fults. Bob's descending to 1,000 feet to make a low pass over a private airfield that's hosting a fly-in. Some friends of Jim and Scott requested it, and Bob is happy to oblige. Right about now, the radio traffic is buzzing. Got the DC-3 in sight. Roger that. We'll follow in the DC-3. DC-3, thanks for the visit. Looking good. Bob says, it's not like riding a bicycle. Scott compliments his pitch control and gives him a couple of tips. And some well-deserved encouragement.
We made it.
All right.
Great job, gentlemen.
Maybe. I've got me a real good co-pilot up here.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, we enjoyed it, Jim. We really did
It
enjoy it.
really was a treat.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for what you did all those years
Thank you
ago,
for doing
flying
that
all those
for
guys in and all those guys out.
Oh, yeah.
Men like Bob are the reason Jim Terry and Scott Perdue call these greatest generation aircraft. Log on to pacificprowler.org to find out how you can share an experience like this, how you can get involved, how you can help Jim and Scott and all their friends keep these planes in the air. It's their way of saying thanks to our greatest generation.